never thought something like this would happen to me. I've always been a focused student, keeping to myself, doing my work. But then, Professor Mitchell's class started to feel different. At first, it was harmless. She would compliment my answers or tell me I had a sharp mind. I thought nothing of it. She was a professor, after all. She praised everyone, right? But slowly, the compliments started to shift. I began to notice how she looked at me a little too long, how her voice lingered when she spoke. The first time she said, "You're quite handsome, Jared," I thought I must have misheard her. But the second time, it felt intentional, her eyes a little too intense, like she was trying to read me. Then, it started getting worse. One day, she asked me to stay after class. "You're doing so well, Jared," she said, standing a bit too close as she scanned my paper. She leaned in slightly, her perfume hanging in the air, and for the first time, I felt uncomfortable. My heart beat faster. I tried to brush it off, but she wouldn't back away. The moment lingered, and I felt trapped in her presence, too unsure of how to handle it. The more I tried to avoid her, the more she seemed to focus on me. After that, I started to dread her office hours, even the hallway outside the classroom. She would make small, personal comments, things that should have felt friendly, but somehow they didn't. "I like how you think, Jared," she would say. "You're different from the others." I'd nod, trying to ignore the feeling that was creeping in. And then it happened. One afternoon after class, as I was packing my bag, she came up behind me. Her hand brushed the small of my back, and my breath caught in my throat. My body stiffened, and I froze. I felt her close in, her voice lowering. "I hope you know that I'm always available, Jared, for anything you need." I didn't know what to do. My mind raced, but all I could think was, is this really happening? I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to think my professor was crossing boundaries, but the more I reflected on the moments that had piled up, the clearer it became. I was uncomfortable. I was scared. But how could I speak up? She was my professor. She had power, and I was just a student. What if no one believed me? What if they thought I was making it up? I spent that night lying in bed, staring at my phone, unsure. I didn't want to be the kind of person who complained, the kind of person who made a big deal out of nothing. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't nothing. She had made me feel powerless, and I couldn't keep letting it happen. Finally, I decided to reach out to Amy, my roommate. She listened as I spoke, her face hardening with every word. When I finished, she didn't hesitate. "Jared, that's not okay," she said firmly. "You need to report this. It's not just for you, but for anyone else who might be going through the same thing." But the doubt still lingered. What would people think? What if it got worse for me? The next day, I went to my advisor's office. My heart was racing, my palms sweaty. I couldn't keep silent anymore. I had to do something. Professor Mitchell's behavior was wrong, and if I didn't speak up, who would? By the end of the semester, she was no longer teaching. And as much as it terrified me, speaking up was the right thing to do. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. The experience left me shaken, but it also taught me something I hadn't realized before: silence doesn't protect you. Silence just lets the problem grow, and I wasn't going to let it grow anymore.